Hi, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the I'm So Done With Him Summit. I'd like to welcome you to the summit, and also I have an amazing speaker with me today, Susan Guthrie. Welcome, Susan. So lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Donna. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so grateful because you've got so much information that I know will help my listeners immensely. Susan is a nationally recognized top family law attorney in the States, which is phenomenal, and has been helping families for over 30 years. And has now set up an academy called Learn to Media Online, so it helps attorneys learning to media online. Susan has been featured on various media outlets such as CNBC, Forbes, News Nation, amongst many other media outlets. Like, phenomenal. I'm so grateful that you're speaking on this summit. You're going to help so many listeners today. So welcome. And also, Susan has set up a podcast. So this is how I found Susan, called Divorce and Beyond. Susan, can you just give my speakers a little bit more, tell them why you decided to set this up? Because when I found it, I thought this was phenomenal. It has so much information and so many resources out there for people going through separation and divorce.
Oh, thank you, Donna. I put a lot of time and effort into the podcast because I've found it to be a wonderful way to take those 30 plus years of experience that I have and sort of put that knowledge out there for free in an easily accessible fashion for people. Because one thing I do know after 32 years of doing this and being a divorce professional is it's a scary, seemingly dark place, and information is one of the ways to shine the light. So I both share my knowledge as well as you are here, bring on my friends and experts from around the world to shine that light. And we also try to focus, because it's divorce and beyond. I really want people to remember and realize, although you may be in that place of divorce now, your life will have a beyond, and it's really the beyond where your life begins. So let's get you there. Let's make it the best it can be. So yes, I've been 2 years. So we have a couple hundred episodes out there to hopefully help people.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the title, Divorce and Beyond, when you're going through that whole process, it's such a dark place and it's so scary. You feel like you're never going to get to the end of it, and that there isn't another side, and that your life is not going to continue after that period, So absolutely phenomenal. You have so many different speakers on there as well, like vast amount of speakers. It's wonderful.
Well, that's been one of the pluses of having been a divorce attorney, and I did really high profile, high net worth clients. And I only say that because my clients were then able to afford to bring in some of the top experts in the world when we had issues in their divorces. The parental alienation expert I've worked with the top people in the world on that. Narcissism, all the issues I've been lucky enough through my career to get to know and work with many of those top experts. And so now I can reach out to them to help my listeners. And so what my clients paid thousands and thousands of dollars for during their divorces, I can gain some insights and have my experts and friends, put that information out there, again, free and easily accessible on the podcast. So that's a large part of what I'm trying to do, is to bring that constant flow of information on all the topics that are related to divorce. There are so many.
Oh my goodness, I know it's crazy the amount of different topics that there are. And I think this is something, when people are starting the process or considering it, to find podcasts like yours, to realize that there's so many things that you need to consider prior to even starting the process, and if you do that, that actually helps you get through the whole process a lot smoother, with the less stress, less anxiety, and spending less money.
Oh, so important. And you and I talked, I remember, and I think this is an important fact for people to understand. Most people, when they think they're getting, or they know they're getting divorced, or the divorce becomes a part of their life, they immediately run out, hire an attorney, and start their education process on the divorce with the attorney. And that becomes their sole source of divorce. Now, remember, I am a divorce attorney, and I am telling you that is probably not the best way to get educated on divorce. And that's one of the things I say quite a bit. And some of my colleagues may not be very happy with me, but there are much better places to get your information before you go out and hire that attorney, so that you make sure you hire the correct attorney, so that you make sure you move through the process properly, so that you know the questions to ask your attorney, and you know how to start moving through that process, so it doesn't feel like the deep dark hole that you and I were just talking about.
Absolutely, for sure. And speaking on that as well, so one of the things I didn't even realize, that there are different styles of attorney that we need to consider prior to actually making that decision, which is what you've just said. Don't start that decision-making process once you've chosen the attorney. You need to be thinking about that way before then. So you speak about there being different styles of attorney, and so should we choose an attorney based on what we're like as a person, what our outcome is, or what our spouse is like as a person and their personalities?
It's such a good question, because I would say all of those and none of those. It would really be dependent on what process and what approach to divorce that you and your spouse, hopefully together, will choose as the course of your divorce. Unfortunately, for most of us, most people going through divorce, the knee jerk in that moment of high emotion is to run out and, usually it's family and friends who are like, you've got to go get, that shark, you've got to nail him to the wall. You've got to get everything you deserve. And people will run out in that moment. Oh, you've hire my attorney. He's a bulldog. He's gonna, and what people don't realize is in that moment, if that's who you hire, that's how your divorce is going to go. And that's really going to set up what your future, your beyond, is going to look like. And you know what it's going to look like? A lot of conflict, a lot of acrimony, a lot of bad feelings. And there are other paths that you could have considered. So when it comes to thinking about attorneys, one, remember that you're the client. So you're in charge. You're the one who interviews them and decides which one of them, those attorneys, is going to work for you. And there are a variety of different kinds of divorce attorneys, all the way from the bulldog. They're out there. Bulldogs and sharks exist. And that is one style, all the way down to, not down to, there's a spectrum all the way across to, or I would say up to, attorneys who have mediation skills and training, or who also act as mediators. I'm an attorney who also acts as a mediator. There are collaborative attorneys who are trained in how to work with not only the other attorneys, but other financial professionals, mental health professionals, in a cooperative fashion. See the difference there? Cooperative versus conflict. And there's a huge difference. As you said, you said it at the very beginning, you were pointing out less expensive, less stressful, less time. High conflict, go get the adversarial shark and bulldog. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be conflictual, and it's likely going to take a lot of time. Go find an attorney who's going to work cooperatively in some fashion with you and everyone else involved. It's likely going to be less expensive, less conflictual, and take less time. So think about that and what you're looking for this experience for your family to be before you go out and pick that attorney.
That's so important. I wish I knew that for myself, even at the start, and someone had said this to me, which is why I'm doing this summit and wanting to get this out to everybody, because and I've mentioned it previously, my divorce still isn't finished. It's been 4 years. So I'm back I'm mediation next month. So I'm hoping it finishes then. I'm hoping it is. I'm confident it will be. But had I known that the style of my attorney would make such a huge difference to the outcome, I've had so much conflict, and also knowing that how my attorney does things could rub the wrong way of my partner, my ex, so had I known that, I would have completely chosen a different person, and
it's hard to change. You can change midstream. When you realize that, you can say, thank you so much for everything you've done for me, but I think I want to take a different path at this point. But unfortunately, the seeds of discord of an adversarial process have already been sowed.
Yeah.
And it can be very hard to dig them up or do the weeding at that point to get those with those, just those feelings. Unfortunately, and I've done this, right? Again, I was a litigation style family law attorney for a number of years. So I'm speaking from a place of having been there and been a part of that system, because I didn't know and was not trained 30 plus years ago in law school that there was a different way to do it.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I like to talk about this, because for my colleagues who don't really enjoy being part of that destructive cycle, I want them to know there are better ways as well. That's, you mentioned our training academy. That's what we do. We train attorneys how to help families reorganize in a better way through mediation and collaboration or collaborative law. Because we didn't know. But the problem is, you know, that style of adversarial divorce, litigation style, is very much about winning and losing. It's party A versus party B. It's like a rear ender lawsuit. It's someone's wrong and someone's got to pay, but that's not really how the family laws work. So the whole thing is really just a mishmash mess. And the more you know, conflict is a cycle. We all know that, right? If somebody comes and yells at you, what's your response? What's your natural human response?
Yell back.
Exactly. Right. So you yell back, and what do you think their natural human response is going to be?
Again. So there's going to be constant yelling. I've been there.
So, you know, if you can come at things from a, let's sit down together and figure out what you want and what I want, and see if we can figure out how we can both get as much of that as possible, and do things in a way that's going to help our kids stay healthy. That's just going to help you through that process much better.
Immensely. It's just, oh my goodness. Like, so this past year, and this is why I've got to this place now, is that having that realization about the energy that you put out to the other person, that's what's going to come back to you, you know, regardless of, it isn't about who is right and who is wrong. You're both at this place and you both have to move forward together. So collaborating with each other, that's going to be the positive way forward, rather than the constant battling. And the only people that benefit from that, the children certainly aren't benefiting from it, right? So actually
conflict, and this is something I always want parents to know, conflict is actually, the level of conflict between parents is the number one factor in children having negative consequences out of divorce. It is not the divorce, not the fact that their parents split up. It is how much conflict their parents have. And the conflict does not have to be over the kids. It can be over anything, but it's mom and dad, or mom and dad and dad's conflict. That is what is going to affect children. So the number one factor for parents going through divorce should be to eliminate as much of that conflict as possible. But unfortunately, the children become the bone of contention in conflict and become weaponized in that conflict, because what's the easiest weapon to use against your co-parent?
It's your children, right? And that's so important for us to realize that at the outset, rather than looking back and saying, oh my goodness, I wish I had known this before, you know, that this was going to affect my children in this way. So that's so important. And I think with you setting up the online mediation, I think that has been so important as well, especially during COVID. I know we've seen a huge rise in online mediation. What was it that made you decide that this was the way forward for you in setting up the academy?
It's interesting, because I actually became an online practitioner almost 8 years ago, so long before COVID hit. And for me, it was because I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. And so if I wanted to work with my East Coast clients, I quickly realized unless I was going to teleport or fly a lot. So I started about 8 years ago working on this crazy thing called Zoom that no one knew what it was. And then when COVID hit, I was really lucky because I was already in this format, and had found at that point in time that there are many advantages to mediating in an online format. It's actually in many ways easier for people, because I don't want to mislead people. Mediating your divorce, you just said you're going to a mediation session, so you understand this.
Yeah.
Mediating your divorce means sitting down and talking about tough stuff with the person that you're splitting up from.
Yeah.
That is not kumbaya and singing around a campfire like many people think it is. It is hard. It takes commitment and, it's an effort. So worth it. 100% worth it. I've seen wonderful, wonderful results from people putting that effort in. But it is work. Yeah. And one of the things that we've realized with online mediation is it's actually less conflictual, because our neurobiology is not as activated when we're even if we're dealing with some conflict or difficult topics. Our cortisol and adrenaline levels don't go up as high when that conflict or those discussions are through a screen. So we're actually able to have more extended conversations, deeper conversations, and get through them together. And so that works well. And really that was a silver lining of COVID, because as you know, the courts were essentially closed.
They were closed, and backed up. So it was,
and they're still backed up. I mean, I don't know. They were backed up before COVID. I remember, when I was in active practice, it could be, a year before you got a trial date. It could be 6 months before you got a hearing date. Now, I don't know how the courts will ever catch up, because now they have all the cases that didn't get properly dealt with during COVID, all the conflict that was raised because of COVID, and then just the normal course of cases. So what happened, I think, is a benefit for those who are getting divorced, is that during COVID, people tried mediation that would not normally have turned to it, because either they didn't know about it, or they just thought, oh, I can't do that. And they tried it because they didn't have other choices. And so word of mouth has grown, it's exploded around mediation. And people really now are hearing about it more and choosing it more often, because they've talked to someone maybe like you, who has now gone through mediation and can say, oh no, give it a shot. Try that before you hire the shark attorney. And so it's been a really real benefit, which is why we started the academy to teach. We teach people both how to be mediators and collaborative attorneys. And then my special area of expertise is and how to do that best through an online platform.
Right. Yeah, that's I so see that that's the way forward with divorce and separation. Absolutely. At the outset of mine, I mean, it took me, I was in court a few times first. And for me, that was the scariest experience, because you're discussing all of your personal things in front of so many people you don't know about. You don't know anything about them. And people can listen into all your personal, and it's like, it's the craziest experience ever. So scary, and I think even that then gets your back up even more with your partner, your ex, right? So mediation is just, I would say there's so many more benefits to mediating, and especially online, because I've been in the online, not online, but in-person mediation as well. And I found that quite different to online.
Yeah, it has that different feel. And I love what you just raised about the difference between one of the differences between mediation and court. In a courtroom, pretty much anybody can be there. Anyone. I remember back when I was in court quite a bit, there'd be what we called our regulars, the people who had nothing better to do all day than just go sit in family court, because apparently they didn't want to watch a divorce court on TV or whatever. So they'd come down to the courthouse and just sit there and watch what was going on. And mediation is 100% private. There's nothing about that process other than the final agreements that will get put in front of the court. And in fact, in many places in California where I practice, if you mediate your divorce, you will never have to set foot in a courtroom to get divorced. You will never have to go there. You may never have to leave your home or office, because you can mediate the entire thing on your computer, sign the paperwork electronically, and everything gets filed that way. So the difference of that, I love that you've explained it's very hard for people to understand what it's like to be sitting in that courtroom, talking about such deeply personal issues, your children's future. You have 5 children?
I have 5 children. Yeah, I do.
5 children, and their lives are being determined in those courtrooms. I don't think you can understand that until you're sitting there.
You can't. And I think having gone through that process, that's moved me forward even more to help women understand that it's so much better doing the mediation, and online even more so is when I had my first mediation in person, I didn't want to be in the same room as my husband. It was so scary, and I was feeling sweaty, and I thought I can't be in the same room as him. So I was allowed to be in a separate room, and our lawyers went back and forth with each other. So that was great. But now, having developed and grown so much this year, with mindset and everything, I'm able to be in the same room with him. So I would be happy to go back in that space, but doing it online is it's phenomenal. And it's amazing that you set up the academy for more online mediators as well.
Well, I'm so enjoying hearing your experience, because that's exactly what we would hope someone would experience. Because when you're able to sit and speak with your children, with your co-parent, and you're able to be face to face, even if it's through the screen, you are now setting up new pathways of communication, forging new levels of trust, new agreements, so that when you go forward and you're beyond your divorce, you now have pathways to work, to continue your co-parenting relationship. And that you were able to do that, first in separate spaces, then by coming together. That's exactly what we would love for people, one more benefit of the mediation process. And it's so valuable, because think about a courtroom. In a courtroom, are you even talking? Not much. Who's talking? Your attorney's doing all the talking, and you're just sitting there. Your attorney's saying all kinds of lovely things about your ex that they're sitting listening to. Then their attorney gets up and says a bunch of bad stuff about you.
Yeah.
And but what have the two of you, what have the two parents, gotten out of that process? A lot of conflict, a lot of bad feelings, but absolutely no help learning how to forge new pathways of communication. You've learned how to talk to your attorney and have your attorney talk to their attorney, who then talks to you, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a huge difference.
It's phenomenal. I know. And you saying that, bringing up about, my attorney speaking to his and saying things about him. And I clearly remember my husband's attorney saying, "Oh yes, she did this." And I'm like, I said to my lawyer, I was didn't I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. And then, but I didn't do that. And I was feeling so helpless, because I couldn't speak. I couldn't get up and say, actually, excuse me, that's not what happened. I couldn't do that, So it actually takes your power away.
You can't be more powerless than turning your life over to strangers. It has always boggled my mind, because I've been that attorney sitting there where someone has given me their life and trusted me to go and fix it for them, or do. There's a huge amount of pressure on that side of the fence as well. But think about, you don't get up in the morning and say, let me call a stranger and find out what I should wear and eat for breakfast today. And, we do not, actually, as human beings, we don't respond well to being told what to do. Yeah. That's another thing about court. When courts order us to do things, human nature is to not do them. Yeah. Which only then increases the conflictual litigation cycle of, well, the court told you to do something and you didn't do it. So you're coming back to court to be told that you're bad, that you didn't do it. Yeah. Right. So we do not like to be told what to do. Isn't it better to make the decisions? And it's not win or lose. It's what you can live with, what you can live without, and what you think is going to be best for your kids. And we know that lowering that level of conflict right off the bat is one of the best things for your kids.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And having that power as well, rather than being powerless, having that power and being powerful, and proactive, you know, at the outset, which is makes such a difference. And being able to make those decisions yourself and determining and saying to your attorney, this is actually what I want and this is how I want it to go forward. And also not having that win or lose mentality, which I think is so important, like really, really important, because there isn't a winning or losing at all. It's about both of you, everybody involved, moving forward positively.
Yeah. There's, you know, everybody is always looking for the win or wants the other person to be punished.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things for people to understand about court is that is never the result in a family court. That is not how the law in family court is set up. It's not set up as a punishment tool. Judges don't have that capability. It's set up on this odd concept of equitable distribution, or even stranger in those states that are community property. So, which just fosters discord. But ultimately, judges aren't looking at, you're a bad person, therefore I'm going to punish you and give more to that person. It's just not how it works. So you will go through all of that, putting that all out there, that energy, that negativity, to only get a judge saying, well, I understand that you feel hurt and upset. Lots of people do. Most people do here. All I can do is divide that between the two of you like this. And that's it.
I know.
You're not going to get a lecture from the bench of, you, ma'am, or you, sir, are a bad person. Cut it out.
The other thing that people really need to understand as well is that judges don't have time to go through all your information. So you may think, you know, oh, you know, you've got all this information on them and they've done this and they shouldn't have done that. And the judge is going to see that. And you may get told by your attorney, which I've been told, oh, well, we've got to get all this disclosure, and oh, but then the judge may not read it. But then why are we getting all this disclosure if it's not going to make any difference in court, you know? Providing all that information for it not to be read. And that's so much time and energy put into something so negative that could be harnessed elsewhere, you know?
Right. And in mediation, you will talk about what disclosure you're going to bring to the forefront. So there's a big difference. It's a very good point you're making that people do not understand, because disclosure is one of the biggest pain points in the process, right? It's never ending. It's so much documentation. Reality is a judge is actually never going to look at it, except what is brought before them as evidence in a hearing or trial. So unless you have a hearing or trial, which 95% of cases settle out of court, whether they're litigated or otherwise. So, but a judge is never sitting there going through your bank statements unless they're submitted as evidence for some reason. They are so that we can quantify the marital pie. That's mainly what disclosure is for. So that in the litigation case, so that the two attorneys and your team can get a picture of what the money is, what the assets are, what the debt is, what's out there. And because there needs to be it's like a fishing expedition. We're looking for we don't know what's out there. And you may not know what's out there. So we've got to throw enough lines into the water to go explore everything, or we're not doing a good job for you. If we forgot to ask if somebody has a safe deposit box with gold bullion in it, you'd be kind of ticked at us that we never asked, do you have a safe deposit box? So we have to ask those myriad of questions, and it just goes on and on and on. So it's just another point of, it takes a huge amount of time, a huge expense, and a lot of it isn't actually necessary.
Absolutely. I completely agree 100%. Even like at this point, I know my attorney is still saying, well, your husband he still has to give some more disclosure. And I'm at the point, well, I don't want any more. I'm absolutely good where I am. I don't need anything. Let's just draw a line now and be done, you know, because we don't need any more conflict going forward. And we need to utilize our energy more positively, you know. And with the mediation, my mediation in June is going to be online. So I'm so happy about that. I'm grateful for that. Susan, this has been amazing. I wanted you have a free gift for our listeners. Would you like to explain a bit more about that?
Absolutely. So I have a form for people to fill out about conflict, about how the conflict in their divorce is affecting them. And I purposely created this because when people are in conflict and divorce, they become very focused on their other party, their spouse, or partner, former partner, and what they're doing. And frankly, there's not a lot you can do about what they do. You can't control them. And so the form is really asking you a lot of questions that are going to help you look to how the conflict is affecting you.
Right.
And that the idea is to give you some awareness so that maybe you can start to disengage from their conflict, because that's your first tool.
Yeah, it is.
Just don't engage.
Yeah.
What we just talked about, right? The cycle, when they yell at you, talk to the hands, walk away, do not engage. And help you perhaps know what help you need to go get. You may or may not know, but I'm a huge advocate of divorce coaching. I think almost everyone going through a divorce should have a coach, but you need to find the right coach for you. And so if you have a very high level of conflict and it's affecting you, at different levels, this form's going to help you look for someone, give them information about you as you're interviewing coaches, and find the one who's going to be able to help you with that. So it's most of my clients have found it to be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have loved to have that at the outset of mine as well. And I think what's really important for people to know as well is that what often happens is we go to our families, like our mothers, or what should I do? Who should I, when we're going through this process, it's our family that are around us. And so for me, like I live in Canada, I have no family here, so I didn't have anybody to go to. But often going to family members is not the first step, not the right thing to do, because they're more subjective, as to what you should do. We need someone who's objective and can see from the outside. Someone that can hold our hand and guide us through that process, So,
well, and help us find, one of the most common services I provide to people is a one-time sort of strategy session where I sit and talk to someone and do exactly what you just talked about. Get that big picture, help them like set up a plan, and then give them introductions to professionals that I think might be, the mediator, the coach, the parenting expert. Try to help them build their team, because you are 100% correct. Family is wonderful, family and friends, but they are actually most often going to reinforce the negative.
Yeah.
Oh, he is a jerk. Oh, she is awful. And they don't have the skills in most cases or the knowledge to actually bring the blunt information that you actually need. And probably, I hope for their sake, they don't have a Rolodex full of divorce experts. I hope that's not been a part of their world.
Yeah.
My family and friends do have that with me, but most people hopefully do not. So yes, that's a wonderful point. And the person I direct most people to, or the professional I direct most people to get started, is a good coach.
Yeah.
So
I think that makes such a difference. It's huge. And I love what you were saying about, you actually said something, this ain't your mama's divorce. I remember there was a point about saying that this ain't your mama's divorce. Like it's not.
Well, that's because that's, the divorce of our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents. Divorce does not have to be that today. Our world has moved so far forward. Yeah. There are so many better options than the divorce that our elders had, whether it be your mama or your daddy or whoever it was. And so I want people, unfortunately, we tend to just repeat what we've seen, and we kind of glorify the media does it, and the world kind of glorifies the War of the Roses and Kramer versus Kramer, and that the conflict. It doesn't have to be that way. It just doesn't.
Yeah, for sure. And I love where you said that, what we need to do is actually start with ourselves and look at what's going on with us, and how we're responding. We're taking responsibility and how it's affecting us. And once we start looking at that will make such a difference in how our spouse reacts and responds to us. So starting with ourselves first is like the most important place to start.
It is. And you've described it so beautifully here in that, as you've grown and moved through the process and learned now you're able to sit in the same mediation session with your husband as opposed to separate. I mean, that is growth. Be proud of yourself. That is amazing. A lot of people don't get there, especially when they engage in a more adversarial process. So, there's so much power in going inward and realizing how much control you do have over things. You're not going to change them. You're not going to go, you should do this.
Yep.
Let me tell you the 15 ways you're doing this wrong. But you can change how you react to that. And it honestly works. I mean, it just honestly works. And if it doesn't, you're still going to change yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with that. That's been the biggest turning point for me. Past 2 years, I would say this past year strongly, changing myself and my mindset and looking within and realizing, oh my goodness, it's the energy that I'm giving off. And if I'm reacting or going out there negatively, that's just going to come back to me. And it does. And it did constantly. I changed that. I disengaged and I don't deal with any of that anymore. And drawing those lines and having that positive, now I'm so positive about everything. Huge difference, like immensely, and with the children as well,
It's a game changer for your kids.
Yeah,
it's the biggest gift you can give them.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's huge. I'm so grateful, Susan, that you've come on today. You've got so much information that you've given our listeners. It's phenomenal. So where can they find you?
So the podcast is Divorce and Beyond. That's divorceandbeyondpod.com or on any of the podcast channels. And the training academy is mostynguthrie.com. And you can always reach out to me at Divorce in a Better Way, which is my coaching and consulting platform. So it's Susan at divorceinaBetterWay.com.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. Thank you so much again. I'm really grateful that you've come on, and it's so lovely to hear, where I am now and speaking to you, and that is the right way forward, and it's the better way forward, and it's made such a difference. And I hope that the listeners will take on board, the information that you've given them, because it will really make a difference to the outcome at the end, for sure. So
yeah. Well, thank you for having me. You are a perfect example of divorcing in a better way. So it's wonderful. I very much appreciate your sharing your experience with everyone and doing this summit. It's a wonderful thing you're doing.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful and appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for joining us today and tuning in. Don't forget to come back again tomorrow when we'll have another amazing speaker. And this is not about negativity. It's about moving forward positively. And that will make such a difference to the outcome of your divorce. So thank you again. I'm so grateful for everyone joining us, and I look forward to tuning in and speaking with you again soon. Take care, Susan. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.